Welcome back to another episode of The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm Steve Gorgei, sitting in for Chris Stewart, and I'm joined, as always, by the national champions, AJ McCarron and Trent Richardson. We have a huge show planned for you today, but before we get started, a reminder that new episodes of the show drop every week on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you're looking for the show, the hub for it all is thedynastybama.com. So go and check us out there, and also go and check us out across all of the social media platforms at The Dynasty Bama. Rate, review, listen, follow. We're doing a ton of stuff on social media, so make sure you go and check us out there. Like I said, huge show planned for you today. We are going to get into the Birmingham Stallions season starting this week. The season's finally here. AJ, we're going to get into that. Of course, Chris is going to join us for our next segment to talk about the NCAA Tournament. Bama taking on Texas Tech with a trip to the Sweet 16 on the line. But we got AJ here, we got Trent here. So let's start with some spring ball. The Tide taking a brief pause for spring break, but spring ball is underway. Let's talk about the gridiron action, guys. A little bit of a quirk this year with spring break falling after a couple weeks of spring practice. I know it's not something you had to deal with, guys, but Trent, if you were in that situation, how would you deal with that as a coach, with spring break kind of falling right there in the middle of spring practice?
Uh, it's crazy because you got to deal with so many days of that you can actually practice. So I think I kind of remember how we did it. I think we did like the day before we had spring break, we had like a 110 test or something like that, or one day with it might have been one day at 110s or the day we got back or something like that. But for me, man, I would definitely make sure the guys are conditioned. I mean, that first day, you're definitely going over, the basics and, trying to, get back into the rhythm of it. But just coming back, I think, make sure those guys are in shape, make sure those guys, because they had a whole week off. And so you definitely don't want nobody to come back and get hurt, trying to, go full fledged. You got to think about guys that are, trying to come get a position, trying to earn a spot, secure a spot, prove that, especially with the quarterback battle, especially with the running back room too. Then you had, you got some young guys coming in from, for receiver and DBs. And so, I mean, then, we had a struggle last year with the offensive line. So it's going to be a lot of guys going hard. And so, having that, type of, spring practice is going to be a deadly spring practices when you're talking about, far as energy level and, far as, guys, just trying to get back into the flow of things. You got to get those sea legs too at the same time because, that helmet heavy, the shoulder pads heavy, stuff that you don't really think about. And you be like, man, my doggone neck hurt or my shoulders hurt, because you get back in the flow of stuff, man. And at the same time, too, they got to get lifts in and stuff like that, too. So, but I leave that up to AJ because he is the head coach, and that's why I am just a running back coach for now. So I leave that up to him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the timing of it is all just strange. I can't remember. Listen, I got so many things going on, and then we're getting old at the same time. So I can't remember how we really did it back in the day. I want to say we did like a week of practice, and then you broke away for spring break. And then when you came back from spring break, it was, a longer period of time. Like it was like a 2 or 3 week deal because you did it for that month. And then after that, you know, um, month of spring practice, then it was, you did an A-day. But I don't know. They also have so many rules now. I think the practices are limited to a certain amount of days. I don't know how you handle that, to be honest with you. What's the best way? It's all strange. But maybe it works out the same way. It's just part of it. You gotta also allow the guys to get away. I mean, because you just ended the season not too long ago. You're kind of the first week is more of a intro, and it's really getting the younger guys just kind of introduced to the college game, introduced to your scheme, the terminology, everything else. And then the biggest concern you have as a head coach though during spring break is just being real. Is
Yeah,
nobody getting in trouble? There's no, serious injuries from guys getting into crashes or whatever. Like that's the scary part as a head coach. And you just, really actually just hope that your team makes smart decisions and doesn't put yourself in harm's way.
So, how important is it, guys, for you to have strong leadership going into like a spring break where it's one thing if coach tells you, guys, I need you to be smart, I need you to be healthy, I need you to be safe. But how important is it for you to have a teammate, a leader to actually stand up and say, like, hey, I know what he said. I'm saying it too. This is important. Take care of yourself. How important is that, Trent?
very important, man. I can remember, and as you were just talking to AJ, like we had a guy pass while we was on spring break. He overdosed, and
Yep.
yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. And matter of fact, I do remember practices now because he had earned the spot because he was starting for a minute.
Yeah, he was
And
O lineman transferred from Tennessee.
yeah, I ain't want to
Um,
say it. I definitely remember his
I,
name,
I can't remember.
Aaron. Um, and I remember because his room in Bryant was maybe a door down from ours. Me, Drake Kirkpatrick, and Ed Stinson. It was a door down. But I definitely remember. And he was a great guy too. Great
Yeah, he
dude.
was. He was.
Transferred in for Tennessee, and he just worked his tail off. And I can remember that spring how passionate Coach Saban was, and I think that took um, uh, more of a passionate side for his players for Coach Saban, far as him, loving on his guys and checking on them and making sure that guys mentally was there. And I think that changed a lot for Coach Saban because he's never had that happen. And so for him to be with us as that little bit of time that he was with us, I think it took a toll to like we had to realize like, bro, like this is serious. Like he's not just saying this type of stuff. He's serious about this type of stuff. And you when you're in the spring, man, and you go home and let your feet down. You go to Panama or you go wherever they're going through, or Miami or wherever, or to Houston, wherever. You get around different schools because every school is on spring breaking in the month of March. And so you get, you catch people from Northern Dane, Penn State, all coming down to the beach. And, some of these guys is the first time being to a beach. And some of these, some people don't know what to expect for it. You got, you got big crowds of folks and, everybody's there just having fun. So, and I get it. But you gotta have that guy. And for me, man, when we got back, it was just a different level of respect Coach Saban had for his players. And I can remember going through that doggone spring my sophomore year though, man. And it was about, I want to say about 6 or 7 guys, like the day after, because the tornado happened the day after, well, a couple of days after we had the spring game. And me, Dre, DJ Fluker, uh, a few of us, we flew, D. Millender, we flew up to Philly because we all had sports hernia surgery. And the day we got back, the next day, the tornado hit us. So our, our rehab, my rehab was trying to walk up the hill, trying to, make sure my teammates was safe and trying to find people and stuff. And so we were just all trying to check on each other because that spring for us was just totally different, man.
Guys, let's take a look at the current team right now, and there are a lot of highly touted freshmen coming in. Yeah, on the offensive side, you got EJ Crowell at running backs, Darian Morgan at wide receiver. In the secondary, you have Jaira Edwards and Jordan Edmonds. It is so much more common now for guys to enroll early. How much, AJ, does that accelerate development and just allow some of those guys to contribute in year one, where maybe in years past, you would have had guys who had to sit a couple of seasons?
Yeah, I mean, it's always big when you can get guys in earlier. And just from a high school to a college standpoint, it's just terminology. Now you're going to run different schemes, concepts, from an offense and defensive side of things, but it's really just terminology, and the amount that you're having to learn in college is tenfold of what you're having to do in high school. And um, I mean, it sets them up for success definitely a little bit better, and then your team as a whole, um, the success part is just amplified. But the tough thing about it, I don't. I've always kind of been back and forth on guys coming in early, just because you miss out on so many things as a kid. You have so much time that by the time you're up there, you're going to be in it, full go at all times. And I think you miss out on some things that might not mean as much to you right then, but when you get older, you're like, man, I wish I could have had my senior prom, or I wish I could have, you know, spent more time playing baseball or hanging out with my buddies a little bit. Right. So it's a fine line right there. But from a college standpoint and a coaching standpoint, you definitely want guys in as early as possible, just because the success rate is that much higher.
Was there a guy, Trent, while you were in school that, you getting ready for spring practice, you'd heard about him maybe, or maybe you hadn't heard about him, but when you put on those pads in spring, that immediately you knew this guy can play, because that's what everybody's kind of looking for this time of year, especially when we talk about these younger players. Everybody's looking for who might pop, who might have a chance to really make an impact this fall. Was there anybody that ever stuck out for you like that?
Him.
Yeah, I say yeah.
But
Yeah,
you but
myself.
you
I'll
started
say
it
it for
you
him.
started it for in summer, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
came
I
in the
started in the
summer, so for
summer.
you, it was the summer, everybody knew you could play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, D. Miller that came in early, and he came in the springs because when we was doing it, like that wasn't a big thing. It had just started happening, and so for me, I was always kind of on the gate, on the fence with it with AJ. Like you miss out on so much, like far as prom and stuff like that. Like not to repeat what he's saying, but he hit it right down, head when he said that, because I know some guys now, some of my guys, they're already in school, and it's a good thing to have these guys in school too at the same time. But man, you only get to be a kid for so long, and you don't get to be an adult for the rest of your life now. And so, but D Miller just stood out, man. We knew this cat when he came in, man. We did the 40 test. He was running 4.3s. He was jumping out the gym. We used to go play rec basketball and stuff, and his body control was just so different. And he came in strong as an ox. He always had that big head, that big 10. Um, Shouts out to my guy D. But yeah, he was just a different cat, and we knew he was going to be able to play as a freshman coming in. And I think that spring did him something good, because you dealing with Coach Saban playbook as far as the defensive side. It's big, and it's a lot to learn. And then coming in as a freshman trying to learn in the summer, it's hard to do, especially when you're trying to compete. And D was one of those guys that he wanted to play early, and he wanted to be on that field and be 3 and out.
Let's talk about the defense, and this defense in particular. Last week we heard a little bit from Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator. Let's take a listen to what Kane Wommack had to say. He was asked about the self-scout he did this season, what showed up when he really looked at his team, and what the team looked like last season. Here's what he had to say.
One of the things that we just have to continue to do is find ways to create negative plays. We just haven't, we still haven't been able to generate the pass rush for the first year and a half until towards the back end of the season. And Janze was able to kind of give us something coming off the edge, and just that affecting the quarterback. When we get in 2-minute situations, having to be able to have something where we can go 4-man rush, where we're not having to play man coverage, and pressure out of it. Those are things that we've got to continue to work on. But to me, I think we've done some good things here, and I know our numbers and all that stuff have been pretty solid for the last 2 years. We just haven't been a dominant defense, consistently throughout the season. We've shown flashes of it, but I'd like to be more dominant up front. I think we've addressed some of those needs with the guys that we've got in the transfer portal. Really excited with some of the new defensive linemen, excited about the growth that I see from some of the guys that have been here in our program. And so we're finding creative ways to get them in the backfield a little bit more.
All right, AJ, what's your takeaway from that? What do you think when you hear that?
Well, I think he's being honest. I don't know if our coaches, took a shot of truth serum while we, in this offseason, but Grubb called the O-line out and said, hey, we weren't very physical up front. We didn't set the tone. We got to get better up front. We got to get better at running the ball. And then now Kane's, I think, speaking the truth when it comes to their defense. Listen, their secondary was the reason, they had so much success last year. Bray Hubbard played extremely well. Brown, you had so many guys that played well late in the season from a secondary standpoint. But listen, they have an issue, and they've had it for about 2 years now from a box standpoint. I mean, they do not and have not done a great job of getting pressure on the quarterback unless they are, bringing 6 and playing man coverage behind it. And that's an issue because you got to be able to play zone. And, for anybody wondering, they went cover 0. I still remember it. They went cover 0 versus Indiana, and Mendoza hit them on a post, which was bad leverage. And the fact that they went 0 and still didn't get home is an issue. They got to find ways to pressure the quarterback or at least get the numbers up on the QB hurries by just rushing 4. And they haven't had that guy recently. And they got to find those guys. And then if they don't have those guys, they got to find ways to create pressure from a scheme standpoint where it's not always just nickel field pressure. They got to come up with different games up front, different blitz packages where they're bringing, cross dog or, green dog in the backs when they think the backs are in protection. Like they just got to find ways to create some more pressure. And then also the other thing is you got to be able to stop the run at the same time, which they struggled really, really bad with late in the year. Indiana was running through them like shit through a tin horn. It was whatever they wanted to do, they could do that game. So when you make it that late in the season, you got to be able to stop the run and you got to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. If you can do those two things, you're going to be successful. And they got to find that this year, especially with how many returning starters they have coming back in the secondary.
Trent, when you look at that front 7, especially on the defensive line there, lose a lot. Janze Pierre's back, and we saw how strong he came on towards the end of the season and the impact he made. But, no Tim Keenan, no LT Overton, James Smith and Keon Keeley, those guys are all gone. Between transfers and freshmen, they brought in 11 guys on the defensive line. Certainly, some of those guys are going to have to step up. But my question for you is this. With a lot of inexperience on the offense, it feels like this is a defense that early in the year might have to really step up and carry the team at times while a new young quarterback breaks in potentially in Keelan Russell, even if it's Austin Mack, a guy who is older but hasn't played a whole lot. Do you think this is a defense that can do that early in the season?
I don't know. I truly don't know because, like AJ said, later on in the season, it was getting ran through. So when you talk about, having a complete, or complete defense, you got to be able to, stop the run. When you can't win in those trenches, and I get it, guys was beat up, and we lost LT late in the season, um, and it's tough, man, when Tim Keenan's out there. He's basically on 1 foot, at time. Um, so it's bringing 11 guys, that says a lot. And I think they're trying to do whatever they can to, get back to, being able to be dominant up front and stopping the run. But like AJ said, like the DBs was the heart of the team, of the defense last year, and they had to be. And because people, when came to passing the ball, people's going to try them. And so when you're getting, sliced up in a run game, that's going to draw the guys down. And good thing we had some good DBs back there that can kind of stand for themselves. But going back to the offense too, you're gonna have a younger team on the offensive side, new quarterback. It's something about having a new quarterback, or a quarterback battle when you got a legit run game. And so right now you're kind of looking for both right now. And so it's going to be, some hard time in up front, but at the same time too, it's going to be some exciting time too, because it's going to be some fresh faces and some new looks that they're going to be able to do with these younger guys.
The bright side of it is the fact that they are bringing in so much depth. Like,
Yep.
So if you don't have a dominant D line, okay, from a sense of where you got, your 4 guys that are going to be out there 99% of the time, and that can create pass rush and stop the run. If that's not the answer, you got to be able to have depth then. So at least you can rotate guys in and out. So you're playing with fresh legs the entire game compared to what the O line's playing with, right? So the 5 O linemen are going to be out there at all times. If you can rotate and keep guys fresh and you have enough depth from that standpoint, it's almost like you do have a pass rush just because you're running 2 groups, if that makes sense. So, I mean, that's the positive of this, situation, is the fact that, all right, you are bringing in so much depth up front to where hopefully all 11 of those guys, because when I even think about our time at Alabama, right? Like, you think of guys you rotated in, Damian Square, Nick Gentry, with Courtney Upshaw, Dante Hightower. I mean, Kendricks. There's a ton of guys, right? Eric Anders came in and played the jack.
Brandon Dedrick. Yeah.
Yeah, Dedrick.
Winslow Washington. Yeah, we had a lot of guys.
I mean, you had
Marcel.
you had so many guys that you could rotate in to give guys, breathers, to where it was almost like, all right, it didn't really matter who we played. And it helped guys last not only for the entire game, but the entire season, to where the workload on their body was nowhere near as much as if they were just the main starters the entire time. So I do think that's a big positive, but hopefully all 11 of these guys pan out, to at least showcase something, so that way you can just have 2 groups and you kind of rotate.
I know no position is easy to just step right in as a freshman and play, but we have seen the past couple years around the country some freshman edge rushers that can come in and make an immediate impact. Do you guys feel like that is a quote unquote easier spot than some to be able to step in right away? Or am I reading too much into that?
I mean, I think that and receiver are probably your easiest spots, depending on what scheme you're in defensively, right? Like, if you're in a true 3-4 and all of a sudden you're playing jack, to where you could be an edge guy, but you could also have linebacker responsibility, so you're dropping in coverage, like that could be tough. But when it comes to a third down guy that's a true pass rusher, like, if you can find one of those, then yeah, that's one of the easiest spots there, and receiver, because it's kind of like, hey, see ball, go get ball. Right. But yeah, I mean, they got, and the hard part in this whole thing I think it's hurt defensive line and offensive line more than any other positions is the way high school football has gone, and not just talking about high school football, but all of these camps, everything's turned into 7-on-7.
Mhm.
And even at an early age, right? Like with flag football, everything's 7-on-7, even at my kids' school, right? So you're not even really able to teach kids how to block. And it could be, and every parent, and this is an issue and something I try to remind the parents back home, their kids, in the fourth grade, he's 5'8" and he's already 200 pounds. And they're like, I want, Johnny to play running back. It's like, Johnny ain't built like a running back. Johnny's built like a damn nose guard or a right guard. Okay. So Johnny needs to have his little hand in the dirt and go to pancake somebody. But when you think about it, even at the high school level, it's why it's so hard to find O linemen from a recruiting standpoint in high school. It's because there's not as many out there because everything in football now is glorified from a skill position standpoint. So even when you think about a ton of offensive O line training, personal training, you see way more skill training than you ever do on social media than O line training, right? So it's tough. Those two positions are tougher to find in this day and age because everybody thinks they're a tight end, a receiver, a running back, like a DB, a quarterback. And then you got to break the hearts of these young guys and be like, listen, you're never going to play running back. Like you're playing left tackle. Go figure out how to block. So
Trent, is that what you're seeing too at the high school level?
Yeah, you see that all the time. I mean, you see it in Little League, and it's crazy because I tell people all the time. A lot of people talk about my son, and well, right now my son 6'1.5", 6'2", size 15 shoe, 3X hand. And so I ain't no telling he gonna play how long he gonna play receiver if he do play receiver. Or he might play tight end. He might play defensive end. He might play he's 180 right now. In good shape, but at the same time, you never know how you're gonna grow. But at the same time, you got to let people know, like people act like it's not cool to put their hand in the dirt. It's cool to put your hand in the dirt. They play the longest. Like offensive linemen get paid the most. The left tackle is the highest paid player in the game besides the quarterback. That's who's gonna make the most money. Is gonna be around for the longest too. So you talk about those guys. I played with a guy like Joe Thomas, and I was able to be there with him for a little bit, and so I understand like the longevity of the game being an offensive lineman. And so my first 2 years in Little League, I played offensive line, and that's why I took on blocking so much, and I love blocking because my first 2 years I had to be a blocker. And
yeah,
so,
that's what
man,
pit bulls do, right? You don't see pit bulls racing around the track, right? That's for greyhounds.
yeah, that's for greyhounds. They can have all that.
I
You
remember.
ever
I think
seen a pit bull attack a chihuahua? It ain't pretty.
Mm-mm. It ain't pretty.
I think I don't know if this ever even made it on the air. I think this might have been the mock episode that we did, right? Before we even started this show. Trent, you said something along the lines of football is the greatest game in the world because it's the only sport you can go and hit somebody and not go to jail for it. And I think that sums up the mindset of you starting out playing on the offensive line.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, it was the only sport, you got hockey and yeah, maybe rugby, but it's like the main sport you can go, knock the shit out of somebody and not go to jail, right? And so it's one of those things where like, bro, like, my mom put me in for football for discipline, stay out the streets, and for whatever anger I had, you take it out there on the field. Don't bring that stuff back home, or don't get in trouble at school and take it out on nobody else. And so it was one of those things to where like you get a sense of, okay, all right, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. All right, take it out there on the field. It's a lot of me against you, mano y mano. That one-on-one battle, and so people don't realize that too, man. So I tell a lot of people, man, especially when you have, kids at a young age that's having problem in school or, at home and, just different problem, man, put that man in football. Like it's a different discipline in football.
Well, it certainly worked out for you, Trent. And if there's one thing that I know, it's that whether it's 1894, 2026, the way you win in football at any level is you win in the trenches, right? There's no doubt about it. That's one thing that hasn't changed, one thing that's been constant since the game started. So that's what it's all going to come down to this year. And we're going to be talking a lot more about it as the spring and summer and fall goes on. All right. On the other side, I'm going to take everybody behind the curtain here real quick because as we record this right now, the three of us, we don't know whether the Tide are in the Sweet 16 or not. We don't know whether Alabama or Texas Tech won, but you know who does? Chris Stewart, who was in Tampa calling the game. He's going to join me on the other side. And when we come back, you know whether the Tide are still dancing. We're going to talk all about it, whether they won or lost. Chris will join me from Tampa, and we'll break down everything that happened over the weekend with Alabama basketball. Stay with us. You're listening to The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome back to The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. We do this show every week, and if you're looking for it, you can find it anywhere you get your podcast. That's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. You can also find us at thedynastybama.com and all across social media. It's the same handle everywhere. It's at The Dynasty Bama. So please, if you like the show, if you enjoy the show, rate, review, and check us out on social media. We really appreciate that. And I am joined now by the man who typically hosts this show each week alongside AJ McCarron and Trent Richardson. He was in Tampa. He's still in Tampa, as you can see with that scenery behind him. He was calling Alabama's 90-65 win over Texas Tech in the second round of the NCAA Tournament as the Tide reach the Sweet 16 for the fourth season in a row and the fifth time in the last 6 years. Chris, how are you? For those of us that weren't lucky enough to be there, tell us what it was like in Tampa this weekend.
Oh, man, it was unbelievable. First of all, to answer your question, at the time we're taping this, I've had about 3 hours sleep, so I'm tired. That's how I am. But I woke up in Tampa, obviously phenomenal scenery, a little bit different set from what I normally have, as you pointed out. But yeah, it's everything's more beautiful after you've won, and the way this team played yesterday was just amazing to finally get off to a good start, but to sustain that. And I won't say for 40 minutes because it didn't score in the last 4.5 and still won by, uh, 25 points. It's pretty amazing to see them actually have that type of success against a very good Texas Tech team. Admittedly, without their best player, but they still had looked really good in their previous game against Akron, advancing, and Alabama expected a 40-minute fight, but Alabama took the fight to them, and that was a major reason, Stephen, why they were able to get that victory.
Chris, the number of three-pointers, 19 on the night against Texas Tech, third most in
Yeah,
NCAA tournament history. That's going to be the headline, right? And for good reason,
sure.
because fireworks are always exciting. But Nate Oates came on this show right before the SEC tournament, and he told us that for this team to make a run, they were going to have to be better defensively. Well, they were over the course of this weekend. They hold Hofstra to 70 points. They hold Texas Tech to 65 points. And they hold Christian Anderson, I think it was to just 9 points or 7 points rather on the night for him, 2 of 11 from the field. And that's a guy who can really go off. What changed for them defensively with the tournament getting underway?
I think, Stephen, that it was the sense of urgency that they had. Um, and we started to see this switch flip a little bit in the second half uh, of their first game against Hofstra. I thought the aggressiveness and the look of determination on Amari Allen's face, um, and even though he's been good all year, but Aiden Sherrill, just it was at a different level. And certainly Taylor Bowen against Akron was big, but I thought they had all of the guys that hit the floor had that look about them um, that we just had not seen. And it was kind of funny. You had all of those guys who seemed to be more aggressive. And while that would fall for Noah Williamson as well, I thought it was the calm that he seemed to have for the first time all year. He was vocal on defense. He was successful on offense, and he was a part of a total team effort. But the way he played allowed Aden to get some rest earlier in the game and Nate Oates to be more comfortable with him. That's been the difference in this team. We talk about the guard play, and with the loss of Aden Holloway, eh, you knew that they could absorb that better than most, given the depth they have at guard. But the reason this team has been so successful, in my opinion, and had 90 points in consecutive games is the fact that, yes, they've done what they've been doing all year long in the backcourt, but the front court has been so good. Taylor Bowen coming off the bench, playing either alongside Sherelle or in place of Sherelle, makes this a very different basketball team. He's scoring from the outside, but he's protecting the rim. He's working on the glass. Uh, and it's everybody. Everybody's aggressive on the boards. And it's been uh, a lot of fun to see, obviously, and the success they had. You know, Houston Millette's been giving you the blue collar stuff all year long. He's been the first to the floor for a loose ball. He's a guy that gets deflections, steals, factors in to winning plays, but he hadn't been scoring a lot. And yesterday he was so good, whether it was knocking down 3-pointers or just facilitating other guys and buried in all this. Here's the key. We talked about a ton of guys, and hadn't even mentioned Latrell Wrightsell, who was phenomenal shooting the basketball and defensively also. The LeBaron Philon Jr., he only had 7 points, but I think he had uh, 12 assists in the ball game. He also grabbed 8 or 9 rebounds. I thought he was going to get a triple double. I really did. Um, but it was a complete effort, and it's good because they've seen what they can be now when they do that for a full game, or 35 minutes of it anyway. It will take 40 minutes to have similar success in their next one against Michigan.
Yeah, you said it, Chris. I mean, it was a team effort in both games to do that with LeBaron Philon really not scoring at the level we've become accustomed to. It's incredibly impressive. Another thing that has been incredibly impressive about this team is just the way that they handled not having Aden Holloway. I mean, we're singing a very different tune a week later, right? Because
Mhm.
that's the kind of thing, and not having one of your best players, it can break a team, especially at this time of year. Did you get the sense being around this team for the last week of who really stepped up off the court to keep things steady, to keep everybody ready to go and not panic in a situation like this?
I think it was the seniors, Noah Williamson being one of them, but the guys that have been around this for 2 years now, and in case of Latrell, 3. It's Reitzel and it's Houston Millett. And their leadership off the floor as well as on the court was a major reason why we're talking about there being a next week for Alabama basketball. They they were um, everything you want your seniors and your captains to be. And so it was typical for those guys because even when they couldn't play last year, they were vocal on the bench, but they were vocal and not just talk. They were getting it done on the floor as well, leading by example, as well as leading with their voices. And so I'm happy for these guys. I really am. Great kids great young men that I'm thankful we get a chance to follow for another week.
Chris, I'll get you out of here with this so you can go get some rest. Maybe hit that beach for a
Gotta
minute
get
or two.
I'm done with everything else, all the sightseeing. I'm ready to get on the plane. That's what we're gonna
Just
do next.
get on the
Yeah,
get on the plane and close those eyes. Well, when
yeah.
you do close those eyes, you might be dreaming about that matchup against Michigan on Friday because it is going to be a good one. Michigan, number 1 seed in the Midwest region, 33-3 on the year. What's your early thought on what Alabama will have to do to pull that upset? They're about a 10.5 point dog on those early lines.
Yeah, and obviously, they've got one of the best players in the country, but the one that uh, I'm not looking forward to seeing, but I am looking forward to seeing on a personal level is Namari Burnett, who played the first 2 years of his career at the University of Alabama, and a guy who uh, always handled himself in a first-class way, but he's been a major part of Michigan's success, a really good defender, long, athletic, but also can shoot the ball extremely well. He's going to be motivated to be part of ending his old team season. It's going to be I think, a really entertaining matchup if Alabama can come out of the gate and play the way they did in this ball game. Alabama's had several double-digit deficits in the course of the season, especially in the last month. If you fall behind double digits against Michigan, it will be very difficult to come back. Not impossible, as we've seen for this Alabama team, and the way they can shoot it, they can get back in a game. But uh, if they come out and play aggressively uh, the way they did against Texas Tech, then they will have a chance, I think, to make this a very interesting ball game.
It's going to be a good one, Chris. I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to react to it next week on this show with you. And hopefully, we're talking about much, much more Alabama basketball on the way. Chris, thanks so much for the time. You get some rest, and we'll talk to you next week.
I appreciate it. I promise you this. I do also hope that come Monday morning, which is when we would record this, uh, that we are talking about a win. But I promise you this. I am not going to be next to the water in Chicago. I am going to be bundled up somewhere inside
Oh, you
when we
sure?
do
You don't want to
have
do
that
it right there on the
conversation.
riverfront, on the lakefront? It might still be frozen, Chris. You might have the icebreaker come through. No?
I'm good.
You good.
We'll finish the outdoor visits, I think, probably right here.
I understand that. Fair enough. All right, Chris, thanks as always for the time. We'll talk to you next week. On the other side, AJ and Trent are going to be back with me because we got a lot more to talk about. The UFL season starts this week. The Stallions have their first game. We're going to talk to Coach McCarron about that. And then we're going to hand the rock to Trent Richardson for some short yardage. The NCAA changed a rule, the targeting rule, and Trent is fired up about that. Plus, Bama baseball had a historic night on Friday night. We're going to talk about what happened for the first time since 1942. It's all next on The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcome back to The Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. I am back again. I got Trent Richardson and AJ McCarron here with me. We are going to get into the start of some football. We got football back, AJ. The UFL season kicks off this week. The Stallions will kick things off on Friday against Louisville. You can watch that game at 7 p.m. Central on Fox. So, AJ, it's game week. You're the head coach of the Stallions here. What are things looking like now that camp is over and football is really about to begin?
Yeah. We just had a couple of days ago final cuts. We are down to our 50-man roster and had our first walkthrough on Saturday, and then players' day off today. And then tomorrow we officially start game week. So, we have a really good group, guys, that just know how to practice. They approach everything like pros. It's been an awesome group to coach and be a part of. This is always super just weird and different because you're watching the only film you have on, your first opponent. If they're like Louisville's a new team, their whole coaching staff is new. So you don't really know what to watch. I mean, are they showing everything in practice? You kind of try to judge off of that, but it's also a guessing game. So you really kind of go in with what you do best and then having your tools in the toolbox to figure it out as you play. So it's a different type of start to the season. You're trying to do as much research as possible and everything, but we're excited. It's going to be a great atmosphere to play in. It's going to, I think, close to sold out or is sold out in Louisville. It's inside their soccer stadium, so I'm sure everything I've heard about it, the fields or the stands are right on top of the field. I'm just hoping this rain holds off. It's going to be cold, but be an awesome, primetime game on Fox, the first game of the year, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds like that'll be an
AJ, tell me
awesome
this.
atmosphere.
My bad. Tell me this,
No, go
AJ.
ahead, Trent.
How different is it now that you're on the other side of it, and you got to make cuts, and the 50-man you down to 50-man roster now?
Yeah,
Like, how different is that? Like, all right, and I know you play with some of these guys, and
yeah,
like, how different is that to
it's
like?
tough.
Yeah,
It really was tough. I made 2 cuts that were really tough because I had been teammates with those guys, personal relationships with them and known them for so long and know their families and everything. And they're both really good players. It's just from a number standpoint, it didn't work out for us. But those guys would be like, first 2 guys on the list that we call to bring right back. But it is different being on this side of it. It's not fun by any means, especially so we have a crew here that's kind of doing like a UFL Hard Knocks type deal that they're going to shop out. And so I had cameras in here, and I guess Mike Rapoli wanted me to be one of the main featured coaches in this this show that's coming out. And so I had all kind of cameras set up into my office while I'm cutting these guys. And it's always tough because, you try to relate to them as much as possible and tell them keep their head up and everything, but it is different. Hell, it's better than getting released through voicemail like I did with the Raiders by Mike Mayock. So, but it was definitely different, Trent, for sure.
Well, we need to revisit that, AJ, by voicemail.
By voicemail.
yeah.
So
it's
we were
crazy.
in negotiations, me and John Gruden, talking about restructuring my deal, and I just told him, "Hey, I'm not going to restructure. I'm owed this money. I want this money. I've worked my ass off for this money." Um, and he still wanted me back. I mean, it just didn't work out. But yeah, I was actually signing the papers on my land back home. Got a call as I was signing the papers, and it was a number I didn't recognize, so I let it go to voicemail, and I saw they left a voicemail, so I stepped out to go listen to see, and it was Mike Mayock, and he cut me or released me through voicemail. Probably the most unprofessional thing I've ever been a part of, but that was the shit show of Mike Mayock and the Raiders. But I came back inside, and Catherine was signing her portion of the papers, and she got an ESPN alert and saw that I'd just been released. So it was like, oh shit. But everything worked out. I mean, hell, I ended up making more money in Houston and not having to pay those awful state taxes like I was going to in California. So I was happy at the same time. But yeah, it was that was a strange way to get released.
I bet it was. I bet it was. All right, AJ, give us a couple guys. If got Stallions fans out there, they're getting ready for the season. They're excited to come out, watch some games on TV. Give them a couple guys to just watch out for this season.
I mean, I think we're on the offensive side. I think we're loaded all over. To be honest with you, I mean, you start at the receiver. You got Justin Ross, who Alabama fans know, tore Alabama up in the national championship as a freshman. That should be in the NFL. I mean, he's absolutely ridiculous. You got Laviska Shenault Jr., who has made a ton of plays, been a great player in the NFL. John Ross, former first-round pick, fastest 40 time in the history of the NFL Combine. Deion Kane's another great player in this league. It's been opportunities. You got Day Woods, another receiver. Jabri Barber is a former player at Troy, transferred to Texas A&M his senior year. He's going to be a great slot. Jadon Mickens at the slot spot. is another one. And then our running back room is really loaded. You got Anthony McFarland, which I have no clue how he's not in the NFL. It's insane to me. Wait till you guys watch him. Number 5, Snoop Connor, Ole Miss fans know a lot about. Was great in the SEC. Spent some time in the NFL. Great running back, and then Tyrion Davis Price is another one. I mean, we got 3 running backs that can run it, and defensive side is loaded. I'm excited for our defense. Our defense flies around, plays the right way. So, listen, all I can say is tune in and watch. I think we have a very exciting team, and if we just focus on the details and the little things we need to do to win the game. And the biggest thing, right, as a coach that you try to preach going into these early games in the season is you can't beat yourself. You can't have false starts. You can't have holding penalties. You can't be offsides. You can't have stupid pass interference calls. Like those are the things that get you beat, along with not being able to tackle, because you're limited on numbers. And it's a lot like NFL where you never get tackled in NFL practice, right? Like it's got to be you thud up, and guys got to know how to tackle. And at this point in their career, you hope that they know how to tackle the correct way. So it's always tough, but as long as we don't beat ourselves and take care of the football, we should be good.
All right, Trent, let's head to short yardage here. And today, I know one of the things you're fired up about is that the NCAA has changed the targeting rule. So it's been modified so that a player that is ejected for targeting in the second half of a game no longer has to sit out the first half of the following game. Now, with the new rule will be if you get a second targeting penalty in a season, you will have to sit out the following game. But what has changed is that if you're ejected for targeting in the second half of a game, you won't miss the first half of the next one. What do you think?
So you have to sit out the entire game if you get a second
If
targeting?
you get a second, that's correct.
Jesus.
I
Or I'm
think it's
sorry,
crazy.
AJ. Let me clarify that. Any player disqualified for targeting a second time during the season will be required to miss the first half of the next game.
Oh, okay,
The
okay.
first half of the next game. That's my fault.
Well, it's still stupid.
Yeah, it's still stupid. I think the whole targeting thing is just, it's crazy to me anyway. Because at the same time, like you can't really tell like where you hitting, especially when you up in the air. Everybody's reaching for the ball, or even if you got a running back like me, I was running back to get low, and so for me, if you're trying to get low with me, and and you're a little bit higher, and you hit me in my head, like. It's really a cheat for me on that end. But, as far as, the defense guys, so you're losing a lot of defensive guys that's, bring a lot to that team. And so it's not just like it's just a penalty now. Like these guys are getting punished and sitting out halves. And I hate it. I hate the whole targeting rule. I wish they would, just do away with it, because guys like Sean Taylor, like Mark Barron, like they wouldn't have lasted in this game, because like them guys come in there and they coming to knock your block off. And so it's just a different day and age, man. And I get it, the whole concussion protocol, they try to protect players, but at the same time, I think, you hurt the game, especially when you got guys, and especially in these big games, right? It takes a lot away from your team when you don't have those main guys that, especially been around for years, and they just going in there, they're playing football, a game that we've been, taught to play as kids, to go in there. And, some people have been taught to lead with their head, but most of the time you're not trying to be, leading with your head. It's just how you come down.
Well, let me ask you guys real
why
quick.
not fix it to where if you get 2 in one game, then you're ejected? So treat it like the NFL, where it's 2 personal fouls,
Yeah.
right? Like the fact that they have to miss any time, or if you get 2 personal fouls in a game, then you get fined. Like everybody's making money, so either fine the player, whatever it is, and then treat it like the NFL, or fine the school. Hell, the NCAA just made up a rule out of nowhere for the second portal, deal where if they find out, so they're taking 20% of the budget away from the football NIL budget or rev share budget, and then they're suspending coaches for 6 games if they find out they're talking to other guys to get them to unenroll from school and then come enroll there. Like, you made that rule up on your own. That was an emergency rule that you sent out. Like,
Hey, I think that
that's
rule was made because of you.
I mean, hell, like, yeah, it's kind of funny after I mentioned it, but I mean, why not do something like that to where, okay, if you get 2 targeting calls in one game, but the fact that this is still an option, because when you look at it, like Miami had their starting safety out the whole first half of the national championship because of this dumb rule. That could still happen, because if that's the second in the semifinal game to go to the national championship, if that's his second, then he's still in that same scenario where he has to sit out the first half of the national championship game. Like, we're talking about starters being out for the most important games of the year, if not the most important game of the year in the national championship. So change it. Like, it's like we have nobody with football knowledge or brains whatsoever running the NCAA. I don't understand this. I mean, you guys have made it such a shit show and a mockery. Like, do something right, please. You come up with your own rules. Just do something the correct way. This is not, I guarantee you, they probably sat around the table and drinking martinis and talking about their everyday life and like started high-fiving each other like, yeah, champions. Like, they just solved the world's issues right here, but it's still a broken rule and it's stupid as hell.
Yeah, you
I
guys
should have
make
known
too
when I
much
brought up
money.
the NCAA, we were going to get a shit show. That was our
Yeah.
first shit show of the day. I said it off air the other week, AJ. I think when you were gone, I said, we need to sell shit show shirts because I think those would do a killing.
Well, listen, all we need is our fans to, put on social media that they want it. We can find a way.
Yeah, we could definitely find a way. We're going to
Hey,
have a
guys.
whole segment.
Yeah.
I want to wrap up with this because a really cool thing happened for the Alabama athletic department on Friday night. And that was a no-hitter by redshirt junior Tyler Fay. He threw just the 9th no-hitter in Alabama baseball history and the first individual complete game no-hitter since 1942.
That's awesome.
Talk about a stopper, AJ. Bama was on a 4-game losing streak. This guy takes the mound on Friday night, tosses a complete game no-hitter, 13 strikeouts. Bama wins 6-0, and now they're on a 3-game win streak as they sweep the Gators this weekend.
Yeah. Shout out to Tyler Fay. I mean, unbelievable job. I sat there and watched. I didn't see the game live, but that mustache he has is also killer. Yeah, hopefully he's not driving a van. But it was awesome. I watched all the highlights. I thought it was unbelievable performance by him. Hell, I was having fun watching it. And then, speaking of baseball, I got the Mobile Bay Sharks hat on today. The boys had a baseball tournament in Saraland. Cash Money, my middle one, 7U team, made it all the way to championship, had the lead 13-11 going into the last inning. Cash catches the line drive. They had opposing team had runners on first and second. I think there was 2 outs at this point, and the next kid hit a bomb to center field, walk-off home run, 3-run home run. They lose 14-13. But, he played unbelievable. I was so freaking proud of him and his teammates. And then my oldest, Trip, they went on to win. Unbelievable job by him and his teammates as well. I think Trip pitched the championship game. I want to say he had like 7 strikeouts, gave up 2 hits, 2 earned runs. So him and his teammates are awesome, rocking and rolling. So I was happy for the Mobile Bay Sharks.
Man, it's
That's
just a
awesome.
different feeling as a father, man, when you can see stuff like that, especially
yeah.
knowing what we have done in sports and stuff like that, bro. It's just, you can see AJ face lighting up. My face lighting up for him. I'm proud of nephew, them, man. They doing their thing. And so, man, shouts out to those guys, man. I'm proud of them. And to piggyback off what you said about Alabama last no-hitter. I bet you Chris seen that. You know how
Oh
old
yeah,
Chris is.
he's
I
old
bet he's
enough
seen
for
that.
sure. It was 1942. Yeah, he was probably 10.
So we've got Chris. Chris saw the no hitter in 1942.
Yeah.
He saw Pistol Pete drop 60 whatever. He's seen it all. He's seen
has.
everything, huh?
Yep.
So guys, what I'm hearing here, I think we're gonna we got 8-10 years. We're gonna have a couple McCarrons on the diamond, perhaps. We got a Richardson. Basketball, football, I don't know
Couple,
which.
yeah.
It's hard to tell. Which way are we leaning there, Trent? Basketball, or football? What's TJ's favorite right now?
Man, whatever he want to do, man. You know, it's a thing to where like basketball's so excited to him right now because it's a skill sport and he loves it. But football is so naturally for him. And now he's running track, and you know, I got my other boys too, and so Toa and Chris, they're doing their thing in sports too. So I never forget about those guys. But you know, the stuff that TJ just actually got back from Nashville. He just walked in and I think he got MVP of the tournament again. And he going nationally and playing AAU and doing his thing, man. He actually got to play against a team that was sponsored by one of the guys. I don't know if y'all heard of Blue Chip. This guy came up to him and said, "Man, you got it, man. Just keep working, and you never know who around, man. So just keep balling and do what you're doing." And so he
That's
got
awesome.
it, man. It just depends what he want to do, and I'm not gonna make him choose no time soon. And it just depends how he grow too.
Well, that's unbelievable, guys. I'm sure I can only imagine the pride that you guys have. It's a very cool thing, and I'm happy for you guys. Guys, this was a ton of fun. Always fun hanging out, talking ball here on the Dynasty, a podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Hey, everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. We always appreciate it. Remember, new episodes of the show drop every week on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us all across social media at the Dynasty Bama. For AJ McCarron, for Trent Richardson, for Chris Stewart, I'm Steve Gorgei saying so long and roll Tide.